guys, welcome back to the Curly Reader. My name's Amanda, and today we're going to be doing the book Superlatives 2.0 tag. So this is a tag that I saw on my friend Krista at Books and Jams channel. Sorry, you can hear my kids slamming doors. But she, I think, got some of these ideas from previous, really old book superlative tags, and then she came up with some on her own as well. And so anyway, these are a look at some of the books from the class of 2020, so books that I read this year, and different superlatives, and how I would award these superlatives to different books. So without further ado, let's get into this. The first one is Class Clown. What is a book that made you laugh? And so for this, I'm actually going to go with one that I recently read. I tried to not do too many that were really recent, even though those are the ones that immediately come to mind because they're so fresh in my head. But this one, I had to go with a recent read, and that is Small Admissions by Amy Popel. This book was just funny. It made me laugh so hard. I just thought that the humor in it was really sarcastic, which is my type of humor, and I laughed out loud multiple times reading this book, so this definitely got Class Clown Award from me. The next superlative is Drama Queen. What is a book with a crazy plot? And for this, I went with Dream Daughter by Diane Chamberlain. This is one that the plot is just very wacky. It is set in the 70s. It's about a woman who has is pregnant, and her baby had some sort of birth defect, and there's really nothing that she can do about it. And then her brother-in-law comes to her and is like, hey, I'm actually from like 2000, I don't even remember, and I'm time traveling, and I know how to get you into the future where your baby can get help. And it just ends up being a mess. And so it was definitely wild. Nothing like anything I've read before. So that one got Drama Queen for me. All right, number 3 is Life of the Party, a hyped book that you read. For me, the most hyped book that I read this year was probably Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. It's not a new release. It wasn't hyped necessarily this year, but I think just overall this book is massively hyped, and I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. I didn't necessarily think it was worth the hype, and I still think that if you like Where the Crawdads Sing, go read The Giver of Stars, because I think you'll like that one too. All right. Number 4 is Best Dressed, and this is the Prettiest cover. And if you've been around my channel for any length of time, you will know what this book is for me. You guys, I can't. I'm going to be so sad when this year's over and I can't talk about this book anymore. I mean, I still can. But this cover, I don't know who designed it, but for the love of everything, I wish every book cover design got this much detail. It's just beautiful. The Kingdom of Bath by Marie Lu. Hands down. All right, number 5 is Most Unique, a book that was out of your comfort zone. And this is another recent read for me, and that is going to be No Exit by Taylor Adams. And that's only because this is a thriller, and I don't read thrillers. And this was like a creepy thriller. It was kind of scary at parts, and I just don't read thrillers. And so this was definitely out of my comfort zone. All right, number 6, Most Likely to Travel the World. That is a book that is set in another place. I didn't really know what this meant because there are quite a few books set where I live, but there's a lot of books not set where I live. So I just kind of went with a book that was really atmospheric. And for me, that one is Molokai by Alan Brennert. This is one that takes place on Molokai, which is an island in Hawaii. And it's at the turn of the 18th century and of the 19th century. So right, like in the 1890s, and then rolls over, and it goes all the way through after World War II. But it follows a leper colony in Hawaii, and it was so good. Very, like, you definitely felt like you were on the island. in this. And so that was my selection for most likely to travel the world. Number 7 is The Cutest Couple, and what was your favorite romance? Hands down, my favorite romance read this year is Beach Read by Emily Henry. I just thought that this book was so well done. I loved the characters. I loved the premise. I thought that this was a great romance, and I really enjoyed it. So that got my pick for best romance. I don't read a lot of romance, so I didn't have a whole lot to pick from, but this was the favorite of the ones that I did. All right, number 8 is most likely to surprise you, a hidden gem. And this is another one that I actually have talked about a number of times on my channel, but I can't not give this for my answer because I love this book so much. And that is Everything Else in the Universe by Tracy Holzer. This was just a complete surprise for me. I had no idea that this was going to be a favorite book of the year. This is one that I just cover bought and picked up. It's about the Vietnam War. It's a middle grade. It's about a girl whose dad loses an arm in Vietnam. And it has a lot to do with the political climate in the United States during the Vietnam War. And it was just really, really good. And totally surprised me. So that's my answer for that one. All right, number 9 is most likely to succeed, and this is one that has the potential to stand the test of time. And I didn't really know because I read a lot of backlist books that have already stood the test of time for quite a number of years, but I did end up picking one that's not a new release. It's been out for a number of years, but I think that this is one that people are going to look back on in many, many years and still be reading. A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor Towles. This one was just so wonderfully written. I know this tends to be a fairly divisive book. Either you like it or you are totally bored by it. And I just happen to fall in the category of I really liked it. I like the writing, and I think if you like the writing in this, you're gonna like the book. I think that's just the way it is. But this follows a man that is put on house arrest in the Metropole Hotel in Moscow, starting in, I don't even remember when, the early, or the 1890s also maybe, or 1922. So, well, that doesn't seem right. Yeah, 1922. So starting in 1922, and it goes through, I think, 1960 or 70 maybe. But it was just so beautiful. And I think that this is one, like I said, that people will be reading many, 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 many years from now. So that is my answer for number 9. Okay, number 10, most likely to be late for class, a book that you couldn't put down. This is another one that is a recent read for me, and it's actually one that I just read in December. I actually just finished it last week, and the only reason I'm answering this one is because I literally could not put this book down. I was just walking around reading it, and that doesn't really happen to me a whole lot, but for some reason this book just grabbed me, and it's called The Prophet Calls. And I don't remember who the author is now, but I will put it up on the screen. I read it via ebook, and this is a middle grade book that is about a polygamous cult, and it follows a 13-year-old girl that is in a polygamous cult and just kind of what happens. And it was gripping. I assumed, I don't know, it was predictable to a point because I assumed a lot of the things that were going to happen, but I still wanted to read it and figure out what was going to happen. And I just thought it was so good. It's not one that I would hand to my kids for sure. It's definitely upper middle grade, lower YA, but very interesting. And I definitely could not put it down. All right, number 11 is most likely to brighten your day, and it was a book that made you smile. And this, for me, is Macy McMillan and the Rainbow Goddess. This book made me smile so much. This book brightened my day. It brightened my mental health. This book was so good for me, and I loved it so much. And it was just one of those right book at the right time sort of things. It's not the best book I've ever read, but it was just what I needed to read at that time, and it made me just so happy. So definitely a book that brightened my day. All right, number 12, The Best Shoulder to Cry On, and this is a book that made you cry. One of the books that made me like sob cry this year is another middle grade. Who's surprised? And that is The Remarkable Journey of Coyote Sunrise by Dan Gemeinhart. This book, you guys, the end of it, I was just like a mess. The whole ending of it, I was just sobbing. It is about a little girl whose mom died, and after her mom died, her dad bought a school bus, converted it into like an RV, and they've been on the road ever since. They haven't really gone home since, and she wants to go back home, and it's just about them and their adventures, and it's so good. So that was a book that made me cry. All right, number 13, Most Opinionated, a book that broadened your perspective. There were quite a few books actually this year that I could have put in this category, but one that it just taught me something new this year is Fountains of Silence by Ruta Sepetys. This is set after the Spanish Civil War, and I didn't know anything about the Spanish Civil War or Francisco Franco's like reign in Spain, and this taught me so much, and it made me curious to go and learn more. And I think that is the mark of a fantastic book, is something that sparks interest in you to go and dig for more knowledge. And this was one of those books that just opened my eyes to a part of history that I had never really encountered before. And so Fountains of Silence by Ruta Sepetys. All right, number 14, The Most Unforgettable Book, or Most Unforgettable, and this is a book that you can't stop thinking about. For me, that's going to be Transcendent Kingdom by Yagasi. This is just a book that has stuck with me. I talked about it in my favorites of fall, kind of why. It's just one of those books that the way that it has written, it makes you think. It makes you think about the way that you look at things and how society looks at things, and how to kind of break down some of the stereotypes around mental health and science and religion. It really focuses on this like collision of those three topics, and it was just done in such a way that I feel like it would be so relatable to everybody, and it's just one of those books that has really, really stuck with me. So definitely Transcendent Kingdom. And then number 15 is Best All Around, and that's your favorite of the year. And this for me, like when I do my favorites videos, I typically like break them down because I read very differently than a lot of booktubers do, because I read so much middle grade and I read a fair amount of graphic novels. Over half of my reading is done via audiobooks. I tend to break things down a little bit. And so I don't ever, I think, do a real clear cut, like my absolute favorite book of the year. But if I had to pick today, the year's not over yet, but if I had to pick today, my favorite book of the year has got to be The Martian by Andy Weir. This for me was just a knockout success. I loved it so much. I thought it was so funny, so witty. I was just kind of on the edge of my seat. It was smart. The science in it made sense, which I loved. I love science fiction that they explain the science behind it, but it's not so like convoluted that you can't really make sense of it. I just thought it was so well done, and I loved it so much. And yeah, so this is probably my favorite of the year. So that's it. Those are my bookish book superlatives 2.0. So class of 2020, I forget what Krista called it, but yeah, that's it for this tag. So any of these books that I've talked about, if you have read them, if you have comments about them, I would love to hear about it down below in the comments. And yeah, if you have like a standout pick for one of these superlatives, let me know that down below as well. And if you have your own channel, you make your own videos, definitely go ahead and do this. I will link Krista's original video down below, as well as all the prompts. And yeah, let me know if you do it. I would love to check yours out. So other than that, I hope that you enjoyed this, and I hope that you stick around and subscribe. And until next time, see ya.